Great Scott! What year is it? This looks brand new. It must be 2019. Hey everyone, my name is Thomas and welcome to my channel. This is a brand new 2019 Nissan Armada Platinum and today we're going to be tinkering on it. First though, you should know that I borrowed this Armada from the Fish Creek Nissan dealership here in Calgary. If you want to go check them out, all their stuff is linked down below. Go and show them some love or this video wouldn't have been possible. I've been driving this vehicle now for about 2.5 weeks and in this video I'm going to go over everything that you need to know if you're interested in one of these vehicles or if you just want to know more about it. There's a full list including facts, features, pros, cons. I do a drive test, share my thoughts and opinions, and at the end of the video I'm also going to race a 350Z and see how this does against it. I want to get right into the information about this Armada, starting off with the facts. Now, if you're not a car nerd like myself and you don't care how much horsepower and torque this vehicle has, then skip to this time on your screen right now and I'll be done with all of this car mumbo jumbo and I'll be jumping right into the features. So, without any further ado, let's jump into the facts.
Under the hood is a 5.6 liter V8 engine that pumps out 390 horsepower and 394 pound-foot of torque. All of that goes through a 7-speed automatic transmission. However, there is a manual mode that lets you take over by pushing the shifter handle to the left and then bumping it up and down. The Armada will run on an auto mode, but you also have the option to put it into a full 4x4 mode. From there, you can also select the snow and tow mode, and also have the ability to turn off your traction control. In terms of fuel economy, the Armada gets 17.7 liters to the 100 kilometers city, and 12.9 liters to the 100 kilometers highway. That's a combined fuel economy of 15.5 liters to the 100 kilometers, and for you Americans out there, that's 18 miles per gallon. The Armada weighs 2,684 kilograms, which is the same as 5,917 pounds. That's just a little more than a Rolls-Royce Phantom. And on top of that, it can tow another 8,500 pounds. With serious weight like that, you need some serious brakes. Nissan has installed 4-wheel ventilated disc brakes that slow down your 20-inch rims and all-season tires that come from the factory. And the Armada, much like most of the other Nissans, comes with a 3-year and 60,000 kilometer bumper-to-bumper warranty and a few other things as well. When it comes to lights, there are LED day-running lights and low beams.
And they installed halogens for the high beams, which I think is a little weird because you see white light and then you go to the high beams and you see yellow light and it kind of throws you off, but I mean it is what it is. They made that decision for a reason.
And for you true car nerds out there, this will matter to you. The Armada is body on frame and has a full independent suspension. Now I should explain that this specific Armada is the Platinum version, which is the happy medium of the Armada trio. Underneath the Platinum there is the affordable base SL model, and on top of the Platinum there is the luxurious high-end Platinum Reserve model, which is much like the lifted Titan that I did a video on a little while back.
The only big difference there is basically it's a little fancier because you have 7 seats instead of 8, which sounds backwards, but the reason for that is because instead of a middle bench with 3 seats, you get what's called captain seats. So you get just like the front seats, except they're in the middle, and then a proper center console. So for the Platinum, this one is about $72,000 MSRP. So what that means is this before import and taxes and all that kind of stuff. That is Canadian as well. So if you're American and you're pooping your pants, calm down, that's Canadian dollars. And then for the Platinum Reserve, it's about $75,500. And now it's time to talk about all of the glorious features that are on this 2019 Armada. But before I do, I want to explain 2 things. The first thing is what's called the QX80. The QX80 is Infinity's version of the Armada. And now you might be thinking, well, why does that matter? Most car brands have a 7 or 8-seater version, something like the Armada. But this one's different. Infinity is like the luxurious version of Nissan, which basically means you pay more for the badge that's on the front. Now, if that's a surprise to some of you, it's done a lot of the same with other companies as well. There's almost endless examples of that, and Infinity and Nissan are just one of them. The base price of the 2019 QX80 by Infinity is $78,500. And the most money you're ever going to be spending on the top of the line 2019 Nissan Armada, which is basically the same vehicle, is $75,500. And the base version of the 2019 Nissan Armada is only going to run you about $65,500 Canadian, which means you're saving about $13,000 for a vehicle that is pretty much the exact same body, a lot of the same same accessories and features. It's really just a logo change. And the second thing I want to talk about is if I seem a little biased in this video, which I'm trying my darndest not to be, it's because I grew up in an Armada. It was from the same dealership over at Fish Creek Nissan, and it was from 2004. Basically, a lot of my time was spent getting around in that vehicle, watching Lilo and Stitch and chatting with my family, so it was a huge part of my life. But like I said, I'm trying my best not to be biased. But let's talk features. Now, I want to start off this by mentioning the differences between the 2018 and the 2019. To be honest, there's not a whole lot. This is the list that Nissan put out explaining the differences and what's new with the 2019. Monotone over fenders applied standard to Platinum Grade. Forged copper deleted from Platinum trim. Rear door alert standard to all grades. And I want to do the same when it comes to comparing this model to the 2020, because it's always nice to know what's coming up the next year, and it's more of the same. There's not a lot that's different. The only big difference between the 2019 and the 2020 Nissan Armada is the Platinum to the Platinum Reserve capability when it comes to passenger capacity. So let me explain. Right now, I'm sitting in the back here on what's called a bench. There's 3 seats, they fold down in 2 sections, very handy to get in and out of the back and store things and roll them forwards if you need to. But when it comes to the Platinum Reserve in 2019, you get 1 less seat. You get rid of this middle seat where I'm sitting right now, and much like the front, you just get a center console and what's called captain seats on either side here, which are very luxurious compared to these. And you have to pay a lot more, 4 or 5 more grand, just to get the Platinum Reserve over the Platinum in order to get that. And to me, I don't think that's very fair if you don't want to pay all that much more just so you can change out the middle seats. And they agree. So what they're doing with the 2020 is with the Platinum model, you will now have the option to get the captain seats in the back with their center console and the armrests and all that fun stuff instead of the bench. But let's talk about the features that are on this year's Armada. And I would be here forever if I was to explain all the features and accessories, so I'm just going to go over the highlights and a few of my favorites. To start off with, everything is power. And when I say everything, I mean everything is power operated. And that includes the sunroof, power foldable mirrors, power seats with power lumbar support and a power memory system, a power rear door, a power steering wheel column adjuster, and even the back seats are power. They go up and down by the press of a button. There is a killer 13-speaker premium Bose sound system, heated and cooled front seats, along with a heated steering wheel and heated middle seats. Gorgeous leather and wood trim with subtle metallic and chrome additions, but after all, it is called the Platinum, so it'd be weird if there wasn't something to represent that. There's also a remote start, keyless entry and exit, as well as a push start button, so you basically never have to take the keys out of your pocket, handbag, whatever it may be. And Nissan went crazy with the sensors and cameras. This thing is nearly impossible to crash. There are sensors on the front, on either side, the back, and not only is there a reversing camera, you also get a bird's eye 360-degree view. There are screens on the back of the headrests with headphones so you can listen to your music while your kids, if you have them, listen to their favorite SpongeBob episode and his laugh doesn't drive you insane while you're trying to get from A to B. There's also wiper de-icers, and if you've not heard of those before, basically it's a strip along the wipers that will heat up when it's cold outside to prevent ice buildup, because we've all been there where we turn on our wipers to get rid of snow in the winter and suddenly it breaks free and then it kind of scrapes back and forth across your window. These will heat it up and melt the ice so it's slippery when it slides back and forth. There are light up inserts that will turn on when you open your door, which is pretty handy if you forget what you're driving as you get into your vehicle. And one of my favorite hidden features is the intelligent rear view mirror. That's actually a screen that you can activate just in case someone's sitting where I am blocking your view. There's also obviously an automatic tri-zone climate control. The 3 zones are driver, the front passenger, as well as the back. Also pretty obvious with the Armada is the addition of an aux port, USBs, Bluetooth, steering wheel buttons, and even a CD player if that's something you're still into. All of that runs off of the screen. What gets me though is that there are a grand total of 5 USBs, and on top of that it comes with a wall plug and even an HDMI port, which is probably the best thing that's ever been put into a car, especially the 5-year-old inside of me freaking out. That means you can hook up anything that runs off an HDMI, for example a computer or any gaming console like a Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, etc, etc. And that's exactly what I did with my little brother. We hooked up my Nintendo Switch and we played some Super Smash Bros. Because why the heck would you not? I cannot thank the designers at Nissan for installing this enough. The 5-year-old in me is so happy that you've done this because I thought of that as a little kid. I made a completely separate video on how to set it up and my experience using the screens and all that kind of stuff. If you want to check it out, I'll link it at the end of the video. But enough of that, time to go back to being a 21-year-old. So time to talk about the pros and cons of the 2019 Nissan Armada Platinum. Starting off with the pros, the biggest thing about the Armada as soon as you sit in it or even see it is you know that this thing is the equivalent of a tank for the road. It is ridiculously big, ridiculously heavy, and that's what it's purpose built for. If you get in a crash in this thing, there is no way anything is going to be beating this unless it's an armored vehicle carrying around huge diamonds and millions of dollars. That's not even taking into consideration all the systems that Nissan has built into this vehicle to keep it safe, like the sensors and the cameras and all the airbags. Even this door, for example, opening and closing this door feels like you're opening the door to a bank vault. Also, the Armada is pretty good for almost every situation. It's big, it can carry a lot of people, it can carry a lot of things, it's high off the road, it's off-road capable, it's got a fantastic suspension, it accelerates pretty fast, it's amazing at braking. No matter what you throw at the Armada, I can't think of a single situation that this isn't perfect for. And I promise you, if you sit in one of these and start playing around with things, the first thing you'll notice is the amount of attention to detail that Nissan's designers have given the Armada. This center console, for example. Now, obviously, you can open this at the front, and it is absolutely massive inside of here. But if you close it and somebody in the back wants something, there's also a little button back here you press, and the top part of it will open up, and then they can reach inside, grab whatever they need from the same compartment, and then close it again. But like with any vehicle, there's also a few cons. For example, this dial to choose what drive mode you're in feels very cheap and plasticky and doesn't feel as solid as I would like it to feel. I also thought that this interface for Nissan's screen isn't the best on the Armada. For example, it starts off on navigation mode every single time. Even if I hook up my phone and I want my music to start playing, the music will play, but the screen will display the navigation when I don't need it. Also, as I'm driving along, if I use the button on the steering wheel to go up or down to the next or previous song, it feels very clunky and delayed. Sometimes it'll beep at you to let you know it's doing it, sometimes it won't. It just doesn't feel very reliable and accurate. I have seen in the Ultima, for example, their new system that has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which this also doesn't have, is a lot better. It's very smooth, it's very efficient, and it works all the time. There's also no USB Type-Cs, there's only USB Type-A's in this, and that's the way the future is going. A lot of new phones, tablets, computers, and all these other gadgets and gizmos are using USB Type-C, and Nissan is putting that into their new cars. For example, one of the biggest changes between the 18 and the 19 Murano is the fact that it has a USB Type-C right next to a USB Type-A. This just has 2 USB Type-A's in the front and 3 others around the vehicle as well. And personally, I think that there's way too much going on with the dash. There are so many buttons and gadgets and knobs and things going on that even if you know what you want and you've been driving this for 2.5 weeks like I have, and you go to do something, unless you've already done it 10, 20, 30, 40 times, you have to really think while you're driving along, oh my god, where is this button? Where do I push to make this happen? Because there's so much going on here. I would like to see Nissan take a note out of Tesla's book and just have one big screen on the front here where you can choose all your options, and if you don't need them, they go away and you can hide them. And when you need them, you tap a couple buttons and you can find things again. But here, it's easily accessible, but there is no way that I'm gonna ever remember what every single button in front of me does. And yes, the Armada has a remote start. I would just like to see the range be a little better. You'd think that from whatever distance you could get it to start, but half the time it doesn't. You have to be surprisingly close to actually make it start. If you only ever start it from your driveway and then your window, that's not a problem, but any further than that, the Armada doesn't like to hook up with the remote. And I've said this before about Nissans, but there's empty buttons on the dash here as well with the Armada. Even though this is pretty much the highest version, they still have empty buttons there. And I know this is more or less opinion based and it was done on purpose, but I don't like the way that they installed the leather on the inside of the door. I feel like they could have done a better job and not have had all this creasing happen. And last but not least for the cons, I talked about how there is a power rear seats that by the push of a couple buttons, you can lower them and raise them, but it takes an eternity to make them go down or up again. And now for the drive test. So the Armada feels a bit top heavy. It's a very heavy vehicle, as I've already mentioned. Going around corners, I would recommend taking it a little slower because, like I said, it's quite top heavy. But I feel like this is an amazing vehicle for being as heavy as it is. When you put your foot down, you're pressed into the back of these comfy leather seats. When you brake hard, this thing listens to you and it will stop on a dime. And not to mention the power steering is also unbelievable. For being a vehicle this heavy and this dense, the steering, it is heavy, but it's not as heavy as you'd think it should be. And there's also a certain confidence that goes along with driving any Armada. This one is just as big, if not bigger and heavier than any truck that isn't custom that's on the road. And it's nice to know that you're driving around in the equivalent of a bank vault on 4 wheels, and that if you get in a crash, you're going to be the victor because this thing is just absolutely massive. But enough of that, I want to get into my thoughts and opinions. First of all, this thing is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I don't know how you can disagree with me on that one. This thing just is. It's massive, it's heavy, it's obnoxious, it is ridiculous. But here's the thing, it's gloriously ridiculous and I love it so much for exactly that point. So would I buy one? The answer, hell yes. This thing is worth a lot of money, so they have a nice juicy price tag on that, and I totally understand why. Going with the Infinity version is obviously going to be another $15,000 more, but for what you're getting with this and how safe you'll be and how long this is going to last you because it's built so well, I mean, it's worth it, at least in my eyes. And now for the moment that you've all been waiting for, the 2019 Nissan Armada Platinum versus a 350Z. This is Nick, and behind us is his 350Z, and we're gonna be racing that versus the Armada, so let's just get to it. Three, two, one, go! Oh boy! No! Oh, he's just got me! Damn it! Oh. Great Scott! Great Scott! Oh, there's my shadow. Hello. So there you have it. Now you know that the 2019 Nissan Armada is almost as fast as a 2006 350Z. My name is Thomas. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new here and you like this video, feel free to subscribe, ring the notification bell, and like this video if you learned something. The video on the Super Smash Bros. And how I set it up on this car will be linked to the end. Feel free to comment any questions you have about this vehicle or any of the vehicles down in the comments below, or leave ideas for future videos. I really appreciate that, and I do my best to try and do all of them. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Peace.